everybody. Nice to have you with us on this Tuesday, on the 16th day of April, 2024, as we talked about what's going on about 3 weeks into the Major League Baseball season on our, nice warm day here in the Northeast, which we like too. Good to have you with us as we chat. John Sterling announces his retirement, 36 years as the Yankee play-by-play guy on radio. And don't forget, a long career before that with the Braves and the Hawks and the old hockey team in New York, football too, talk shows. We'll talk to my old radio partner in a little bit about him. He's a huge Yankee fan, and he and I had lots of fun with John back in the 90s, so when the Yankees were winning all those championships. So Mike and I, a little later, we'll look forward to that as we chat. Let's do something going on now as far as our brushback is concerned. Let's do a couple teams. Let's give the Mets credit. I had a big fight with Chris Christie. You know him, right? Of course, former governor of New Jersey, who's a tremendous Met fan, and he knows the team really well, and, a Cowboy fan, too, and got all upset at me a couple weeks ago when I was making fun of the Mets on radio when they were losing that first game with a doubleheader to Detroit, and when the Tigers were coming in and the Mets were 0-5, and then, of course, they were bailed out in Game 2, and Alonso hit the homer in the bottom of the ninth inning. And he said, the Mets are not that bad. You're giving them too hard a time. They're going to be fine, da-da-da-dee, da-da-da-da. And he's right, because the Mets have played a lot better here as of late. They've won 8, and they got back to 500, losing 8 last night. A good comeback win against the Pirates, who had a 3-0 lead. Pirate bullpen, of course, faltered. Chapman had some trouble. Bader got another big hit. Second day in a row he's done that. They had a big uprising in the 8th inning when they scored 4 runs, trailing 3-2. Pirates have played well. They pitched well, and the Mets took advantage. They hit by Bader, which broke the game open, and they win a game against the Mets. Diaz in the 9th inning will do his job. Met bullpen, Ottavino's had a great start to the year, and, relievers go up and down. Last year, bad. This year appears to be much better. The Mets starting rotation's been okay. Beatty's played a very good third base, and he's hit well. That is a very encouraging sign if you're a Met fan. Lindor hasn't hit a lot, but he's going to catch the ball defensively. That we all know. Alonso does what he does. And the Mets have played pretty well here to start the year. So as a result of that, after a rough start and then a rough, tricky road trip, they had to go to Cincinnati against the Reds. They won 2 of 3, and their one loss was a bad one. They walk into Atlanta, who they never beat, and they won that rubber game last Thursday, 16-4 against the Braves. They had the one rain out. They had a good series against Kansas City. They got 2 in the 8th, a scoreless game on Sunday to win that one, and then the good game last night. So give the Mets some credit. Mendoza's team had settled them down. Nobody panicked off that bad start. They've been resourceful offensively. They've pitched better than you think. They're going to get Senga back eventually. Diaz anchors that 9th inning. We talked about Ottavino, so 8-8, and the division has been not great so far. Obviously, the Phillies have not gotten off, last night's win notwithstanding. In Atlanta, where we go to next, they're the favorite. They'll probably win the division, but the Braves have lost 5 games and some major injuries with that pitching staff. But the Mets, good job for them winning, splitting their 16 games here after the 0-5 start. So they're 8-3 in their last 11, and they get the Pirates a few more games here this week here at Citi Field. I think they go to play the Dodgers this weekend in L.A. All right, that is number 1. Number 2, of course, is the Braves and the Astros. That Brave lineup is relentless. I mean, Kelenic has done a nice job. Duval's sitting there where they can get him in that lineup, too. They're great in the middle of the order. Ozuna has been wonderful. He's got 7 home runs. He had a big one there against Tanner Scott on Sunday for the rubber game in Miami. 2 strikes and 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. Good uprising yesterday against Houston. Now, they're pitching little spotty. I mean, obviously, a terrible injury to Strider. They miss him, so they need Fried to be pretty good. They need Sale to be pretty good. He wasn't good in his last outing. They need him to really recover and be good. Morton, not to show his age. I mean, again, the starting pitching isn't wonderful, and the Braves have not hit in the last 2 postseasons. You can't judge everything with your offense on a small 4-game sample size, but last year their offense really struggled in Philadelphia against the Phillies. They didn't pitch great in that series either, but their offense was horrendous. But, the Braves are going to score a ton of runs, and he's a good manager. They roll him out there every day. No load management as far as Atlanta is concerned. Those guys play. Albies plays. Acuna plays. Olsen plays. Riley plays. Snitka throws the lineup out there. That's the way they're built and the way they go. And they're pretty deep 1 through 9. And obviously against the Astros, they get the job done there. Interesting road trip. Big game yesterday. A game where they scored a bunch of runs in the 9th inning to blow it open. And Atlanta is, they're the team to beat. Obviously, we all know that in the East. And they're going to win the division most likely. Their pitching probably not nearly as good now with this injury. probably won't win necessarily 110 games. Maybe that under looks a little better at 101.5. But the Braves, at the end of the day, are going to be somewhere between 95 and 102, 103 wins. That's where that number is going to fall, and they're going to win the NL East. And then we shall see in October. They won it 3 years ago. Last two postseasons are quiet. Some of it they attribute to the layoff that they've had getting ready for the divisional round. Sometimes that does hurt teams. Other times it doesn't. Hasn't hurt Houston that much. It did hurt, of course, Atlanta the last 2 years when they lost to Philly off 5 days off, and the Phillies had played. But Atlanta's a very, very good team, and their offense does not quit. And we shall see with them and the Dodgers there at the end of the day. And the Mets, of course, good job there. Houston, I'm not that worried about Houston. Now, listen, they're playing badly. They're 6-12. No Verlander, no Valdez. They got a million injuries with that pitching staff. Who knows? I guess Valdez feels a little better than they thought. Verlander's going to come back this weekend against Washington up in the capital, nation's capital. So they do get a little reinforcement scenario from them. Blanco's done a great job with the no-hitter. He's pitched really well. But the Astros have not played that well. The only thing I would say about the Astros before you panic too much, they've won 4 out of 7 against Texas, number one. I hate when they played so many games against their divisional rivals so soon. They've already played 7 of their, they played 18 games and 7 of them were against Texas, which you don't limit. It's the way it is. And, of course, the Houston situation in the division is not terrible because Texas at 9-8 hasn't played that great. The Angels are roughly the same. Seattle's under 500 despite the win last night. So the division, which we thought was going to be really good with Texas, Seattle, and Houston is not so good right now as you see the standings, which I think will help the Astros because eventually they're too good to be this bad for, losing 12 of their first 18. They've also had a tricky schedule. Playing the Yankees the first 4 games of the year is no picnic. 7 games against the world champs and now a game against Atlanta. So their schedule has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but 6-12 is 6-12, and pitching woes all over the place. You figure they're going to hit. Bregman hasn't done anything. Abreu at first base, he's 37. He had a good postseason last year, but he hasn't done anything. But the Astros, and they got a new manager, but you would think the Astros at the end of the day will be okay, and they're helped right out of the gate by a slow start by the other teams in the American League West. So the Braves offense, the Astros, nothing to panic yet because of where Texas is, and the Mets back to 500. Give them credit after the 0-5 start where it looked feeble for them, not being able to, obviously really struggled early, had that terrible series the first weekend of the year when Milwaukee walked in there, and then Detroit, and they have recovered. They've won 8 of 11. Good for them. That's where we begin on a busy day. We look forward to my old radio partner on Sterling's retirement. I'll save conversations about John until we get to Mike, including, of course, is a conversation today's show with David Robertson. That was with Alana, and Miss Rizzo joins us now. Alana, take it away. What do you have for me? Go ahead.
Good afternoon. You've maintained, Chris, that you think the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros are the 2 best-run franchises in the league. So anytime the Astros get off to a bit of a shaky start, I do think people start to panic. And what I'm looking at when I look at the Astros, of course, is the slow start, the injuries, of course, but everyone's dealing with pitching injuries. And I'm a little bit concerned about Josh Hader. Now, in his defense, he has oftentimes this season had to pitch in non-save situations. We know that typically he does not like doing that. He likes to come in the 9th, but he gave up 4 runs in just a third of an inning last night. He faced 6 Braves. He gave up 6 hits. He walked a guy, and he only retired 1 batter. His ERA is 6th worst in the AL. Now, that's a minimum of 7 innings. I'm talking just about, obviously, relievers. He's blown 1 save. He's only had 2 chances, but he's been in 7 non-save situations out of 9 games that he's pitched in. 4 times he's come in with them losing, 2 times when the game is tied, 1 with the 3-run lead, but there were 2 outs in the 9th, so it wasn't a safe situation. So he's been put in situations that are not comfortable for him. If you're a closer and you really want to have that adrenaline, it's a different breed of guy, right? The 9th inning, I think we can all say, are the 3 toughest outs to get in the game. The final 3 outs of 27 outs, that 9th inning, you have to be a little bit different as a closer. I kind of liken it to being a hockey goalie. There's just something different about the way that these guys tick. So I'm interested to see how Josh Hader is going to turn this situation around. When you look at the Astros as a whole, this is the 5th straight year, Chris, that they've been at 500 or worse through 18 games, but they haven't been this bad over that span. They're 6 games under 500 right now. They haven't been more than 3 under at any point in any season, and not just the first 18 games. Since the middle of June 2016, that was Alex Bregman's rookie season. So there's a lot of change with this team. I don't think we can put a value on how much Dusty Baker meant. It's almost like Dusty could just show up to the ballpark and this team would roll out victories. Not to take anything away from Espada, but there is a different culture there right now. And I'm just wondering when Josh Hader is going to be able to figure this out. He is not alone in this. There's a lot of closers that are struggling right now. There's a lot of guys that, when they come out into the 9th inning or whatever, have traffic on the bases, and it's just not that dominant closers that we're used to seeing, the 1, 2, 3, 3 up, 3 down. But the Astros, I'm not concerned yet because this is a team that just, reloads, not necessarily rebuilds, but I do think they're fortunate to be in the AL West versus the AL East.
Yeah, I agree with you about Hader. I'd be very worried about him. I think you're 100% right. It's too early to go crazy on Houston after 18 games, but you're 1,000% right on the reliever. Right on. Lots to still do.